This meeting will now come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt. Here. And Councilmember Leon.
Here.
Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of April 18th, 2017. The consent agenda consists of one item this evening, and that is authorization to hold an executive session. I have received no request for removal from council. Do I have a vote? A motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion in many seconds. Council, please vote.
Everybody?
And the consent agenda passes unanimously. We will now adjourn to executive session.
Moved here 2002, and as someone told me as I came here, there's only two people you need to know in Arizona, in Phoenix, Walt Richardson and Hans Olsen. And if they think you're okay, you're going to do fine. And I was playing a gig at Rula Bula, right. And in walks the Rasta man, and a friend of mine who was with me said, "That's Walt Richardson." And Matt right. Parker, who knows you, introduced us. And then you, in turn, introduced me to to Hans. And Hans, we met at the McDowell Mountain Music Festival.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right, right. And it's been a musical journey ever since then.
Well, they were correct. Somewhere out there in the night, there's somebody playing a song, one especially for me. Could be Muddy Waters or George Jones. It don't matter who is singing, it's the comfort that it's bringing. Maybe it's coming from El Paso, New York, or Key Largo. I'm gonna twitch that dial till I find radio heartbreak. Ain't that where the lonely go? I'm gonna twist till I find some things to ease my mind and take me back to a world I used to know. Running scared with Roy Orbison, running away with Del Shannon, talking about love gone bad. Long as it's lonesome and sad. And I'm gonna twist that dial till I find radio heartbreak. Ain't that where the lonely go? I'm gonna twist till I find something to ease my mind and take me back to the world I used to know. Oh, the smell of misty roses, night blooming jasmine in the air. Oh, the sound of remember gives me wings and takes me there. I'm gonna twist that dial till I find radio heartbreak. Ain't that where the lonely go? I'm gonna twist till I find something to ease my mind and take me back to the world I used to know. Radio heartbreak. Radio heartbreak. Radio heartbreak.
I can still remember the first time I heard an electric guitar. My dad had some record of orchestra music, and they covered this tune called Arthur's Guitar Boogie. I learned this, after the fact, quite a while after the fact. And there was this stinging sound. And I'm like, Dad, what is that? I was probably about 5. He goes, that's electric guitar. I'm like, whoo, cool. So it was another 5 or 6 years before I could actually talk him into getting me a guitar, And then I heard Jimi Hendrix, and it took me about a month to start to figure out what that was. I think I was about 13 when I heard that. And there's a lot of heavy influence from Jimi. My mom is a classical pianist, and she had a Segovia record that I remember from way back. I used to love listening to that. So that's in there too. Wow. But the thing that got me started was that sound, that electric guitar sound that I heard on that record.
first time that I saw a live band was on TV, and that sealed the deal for me, was when the Beatles came on the Ed Sullivan Show.
yeah.
And I think that made an impression on a lot of people.
Didn't that change
But-
the lives of so many
Oh.
people in the world?
And then so we used to watch the Ed Sullivan Show as a family, sitting there, and these guys came on. I was transfixed. I was like, I was looking at the audience, and I was looking at them, and I was just transfixed. And I knew from that moment on that I was going to be doing something with music. Because we were raised to be leaders, I was encouraged to say, hey, if you're going to play music, be the best out there, you know. And so even that got scary, because it's like, well, you guys aren't going to push me another direction. Now I really have to follow through with this, and it's been real. I've had fun.
I walk out in the new morning, I walk out there with you. My feet get wet in the new morning dew. I see the creatures as they scamper in the dirt. And I see the children in their oneness with the earth, and they're singing, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. I see the flowers in their blossoms. I see the trees in their leaves. Oh, these spirits in their costumes as they dance in the breeze. And they're singing, la 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 la. 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 Oh, it's a beautiful morning, and it's a wonderful, oh, it's a wonderful day. Oh, it's a beautiful morning, and it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful day. I see the flowers in their blossoms. I see the trees in their leaves. Oh, these spirits in their costumes as they dance in the breeze. And they're singing, la 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 la. 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 Oh, it's a beautiful morning, and it's a wonderful, oh, it's a wonderful day. Oh, it's a beautiful morning, yeah, and it's a wonderful, oh, it's a wonderful day, yeah, a beautiful day, such a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day, such a wonderful day, yeah, 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 yeah. la la. La 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 la.
Through the 80s and the 90s, the three of us never played to you, myself, and
No, not-
we
not
never
like we
played
did.
together like we had
No.
to do in here in the showcase, because everybody had their following. I mean, Hans, you go see his show, it's packed. Go see your show, it's packed. See my show, it's packed. And so if I had a night off, I'd come and try to catch either one of your shows.
Let me tell you something. Love is sweet, love is fine. Turns my water into wine. It heals the weak and it frees the blind. Flows through every space and time. Listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. I say, now listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. Love is learning evermore. Yes, his journey guides your course. A friend to touch and a hand to hold. Will never, never leave us in the cold. Listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. I say, now listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. 'Cause I'd like to see you dancing so happy in the sunshine. I'd like to see you dancing and everything's alright. I'd like to see you dancing so happy in the sunshine. I'd like to see you dancing and everything's alright. Yeah. So let this be our new world goal, helping both the young and old, planting seeds and watch them grow. You're always reaping what you sow. Listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. I say, now listen to me, brother. We got to love one another. 'Cause I like to see you dancing so happy in the sunshine. Oh, I like to see you dancing and everything's alright. I like to see you dancing so happy in the sunshine. I like to see you dancing and everything's alright. I say love, I say love, I say love, I say love. Everybody, I say love, I say love, I say love. Keep on singing. I say love, I say love. Hey, what you want, children? You know it's what you need now. Hey, what you want, children? You know it's what you need now. When you wake up in the morning, when you come home in the evening, all through the night, it makes you feel alright. It makes you feel alright. It makes you feel alright.
I'm Walt Richardson. Thank you for joining me for this Songwriters Showcase. For information about Songwriters Showcase or any of the wonderful events happening at the Tempe Center for the Arts, be sure to check out our website at tempe.gov/TCA. Until next time, keep playing, keep jamming, keep singing.
I've been an officer about 8 years, and I've been here at Centennial. This is the beginning of my second year. This is a larger high school than most, certainly the largest in this district. You get up at about 4, I go run with a couple of ex-patrol guys, and we run around the neighborhood. I get here at about 6:30, usually take a walk around, see if there's anything overnight, anything that's happened. I'll check in and talk to some of the security people, the ones who watch the gates and things, to see if anything is up. I'll usually try to be out in traffic, whether it's in the back parking lot with the staff parking or out front. Once the bell has rung, I start making the rounds. I start looking around, walking through all the halls and see if anything needs your attention. There are 3 or 4 people that a lot of things run through at the school. Anything go on today, any issues, the counselors do a great job. They have a real feel for if there's an issue, if there's anything kind of brewing, they'll let me know. Morning. Here for the school resource officer, there's 3 parts. Security for the school, for the staff members, for the students, obviously. There's a informal teaching role, sort of as a guest speaker teacher, and then also the third part, a mentor, guidance counselor type of thing. Oftentimes I have students come in and or parents, sometimes staff members. They'll have a question about all sorts of different things. You know, as a police officer, you want to be vigilant. You want to keep your eyes open. You want to be aware. Again, no surprises. So that part doesn't change so much. Who you're working with, you know, with kids, maybe a little more patience than than you might have out on the outside. The vast majority of kids here are great. They're working hard. They're just working their way through, figuring out who they are, getting to their next step, and they've been really, really good to work with. You know, there are almost 2,200 kids here. There are about 2,200 personalities. Some people want to be artists, some people want to be athletes, some people want to be machinists or mechanics, or you name it. Everything in the world you could think of. I have a lot of respect for teachers, and since I've been here working with them day to day, it's just grown immeasurably. These people are unbelievable. The school is not about me. The school is about the students and the teachers and the staff, and getting everybody to the next level. And so if I can help do that, great. Yeah, I feel like my role is to support the staff in any way they need, whether that be speaking to students, large groups, maybe teaching some law enforcement, doing some law enforcement education, but also taking care of the security side for the school, for the staff members and the students. It is very rewarding.
famous Italian monk Giordano Bruno in 1586 published a book in which he said the sun is a star and that the earth was a planet and that other stars certainly had planetary systems and probably even had life. And for that and other radical things that he said, the church burned him publicly. You could say that extrasolar planets was a much hotter field back then.
Exoplanets were almost as silly as looking for extraterrestrials, little green men on other planets.
Seriously, looking for planet was a kind of weird topic.
The whole field had sort of a snake oil sheen about it because over the previous 50 years or so, there had been many, many claims of the first extrasolar planet ever, and the one thing all those claims had in common was that they were wrong.
In San Francisco, California, astronomers Jeff Marcy and Paul Butler were quietly looking for Doppler shifts, changes in the observed color of light from the star.
I literally spent the first 8 years of the program simply trying to improve the techniques involved in making these sort of measurements, mostly totally under the radar. Nobody knew what we were doing and nobody cared.
A ray of hope that it might be possible to detect a planet came with the discovery by Dave Latham and Zvi Mazet of a mysterious object orbiting the star HD 114762.
They announced the detection of an object that they called a brown dwarf. They looked and they didn't see it in a telescope, so if it was a star, if it was 1,000 times the mass of Jupiter, they would have seen it.
To this day, it is not known whether this object is a planet, a brown dwarf, or even a low-mass star, but its discovery emboldened others to continue the search. A different and dangerous approach to planet hunting was underway in Canada. The team of Gordon Walker and Bruce Campbell employed the deadly gas hydrogen fluoride in an attempt to precisely measure Doppler shifts.
And he showed me their setup in Canada at one point. One person would be in there doing the setup, and the other person would be outside of the room looking through a porthole with 2 gas masks. And his job was, if something went wrong, throw on a gas mask, run into the room, throw the gas mask on the other guy, and drag him the hell out. Any good science should have an element of danger. There should always be at least the vague hint of death involved. Otherwise, you're not really on the cutting edge. They really pioneered the whole field, just a spectacular achievement.
We're all here because of the work that they did.
In 1992, another incredible discovery piqued the interest of astronomers looking for exoplanets. But these new exoplanets were not orbiting a regular star. They were orbiting a pulsar.
2 very small bodies got detected at Arecibo by Wolsham and his colleagues, and they really got us scratching our heads. So we call them pulsar planets.
Wolsham and Frail is somewhat of a special case because I don't think anyone really doubted that these were planets as much at the time, but they were planets around a bizarre object, a pulsar.
But they really were the first 2 bodies to orbit a dead star, not a currently shining star.
The formation of planets is an incredibly robust process. And that's what that discovery told us, and we missed it because we didn't understand it.
We should have understood that planets don't come in ones, that they come in systems. But we were still focused on finding the very first planet.
Halfway around the world in Geneva, a pair of Swiss astronomers were hard at work developing a different technique. Their instrument relied on fiber optic technology, and they used it to turn their eyes on exoplanets.
My first day of work, I got this booklet from Michel that was the ultimate knowledge of data processing of spectroscopy. There was almost nothing at that time, and that's it. And we had to do this instrument. And we designed this practically without much support from anybody else because the other people felt that this was not interesting.
After
few months, already at the end of 94, we got a signal of variability for several stars, not only one, several stars.
We realized very rapidly that the instrument could be far more precise than we thought. So I started with a couple of stars a bit more intensively, and 51 Peg was one of them because it was bright. And very rapidly, 51 Peg had a very weird behavior.
On one side, we were absolutely sure of the quality of our measurement. All the signal was in favor of a planet, but it's evident it was a so unusual planet.
And I really thought at that time, oh, there is something really bad in the software on the instruments, and I better to figure out, because otherwise my PhD would be compromised.
Over the next several months, the two astronomers checked and rechecked their data. The problem was no one could imagine a giant planet with such a short orbit.
So we came back in July, this time together with Michel, very excited, say, okay, let's see whether the conclusion that we had with the first bunch of data we had still holds.
The real moment where we had the confirmation of the reality of 51 Peg, it was really a planet, was in July 95.
First data, just on it, we say, okay, just luck. Second data, still on the curve, we say, okay, well, 2 is far, there's still 2 is not enough. The third one was still on it, following a track, and then we say, well, let's just wait the fourth to be really, really sure, because it was so embarrassing conclusion, that planet, that we really want to make sure that was real.
We got the good period, the good amplitude, and so on. So at the time was really the time for the celebration. Before we were not sure that it was a planet.
I mean, there is a real planet. Believe it or not, there is no theory to predict that planet, but there is a planet there.
Following days of rumors circling the globe, at a conference in Florence, Italy, the news unofficially leaked. A Jupiter-sized planet had been discovered. This massive planet was making a complete orbit of its star in only 4 days. How could that be?
Suddenly there's this 51 Peg, which is a Jupiter-sized planet, but in a 4-day orbit. And people knew that was impossible. If Jupiter-like planets orbit at like Jupiter and Saturn orbital distances.
Back in San Francisco, Marcy and Butler, by mere coincidence, had 4 consecutive days of reserved telescope time at the Lick Observatory, the exact amount of time needed to confirm or debunk the claim.
We hit the star very hard for those 4 nights. We reduced the data as quickly as we can. We were blown away. We saw exactly the signal that Mayor and Collot had announced.
Confirming my data, to me, was just the best gift I could have had, because I said, oh, fine, so all the work I did is right.
Here in San Francisco, the discovery was dramatically verified just this past weekend.
October 19th, 1995.
What may be the discovery of new planets outside our solar system has created enormous excitement among astronomers.
The confirmation was made before the official announcement of the discovery itself.
It went completely out of control.
Everybody was discussing of this new object, except us.
By tradition, scientists have their discoveries peer-reviewed by other scientists for accuracy.
I was one of the referees on the paper. There were 3 referees, and normally I think they only do 2, but this was so big that the Nature editor, Leslie Sage, was being very careful.
Because of the situations, Nature was very strict. They say, well, look, guys, if you talk to people, then we're not going to publish your paper.
So it's only after 1 month or something like this that I receive a message from Nature that, okay, no, you are relaxed from the embargo.
Because the discovery was just too big, just far too big to follow the usual scheme that is required for a scientific paper. As soon as you start talking about that, I mean, everybody wanted to know about this.
51 Peg B is a real planet, no question about that.
as soon as we detected 51 Peg. He had on his data plenty of something like that. You just need to look at it.
At this point, we hadn't analyzed all our data. We had 2 computers, and it would have literally have taken us 5 or 6 years to get through all of the data. So literally about a half a dozen different groups said, you know, we've just received these new computers, and we're not going to use them for the next several months. You want to dump your jobs on it.
Within 2 months, 2 other Jupiters circling around their stars were found by Marcy and Butler, and the floodgates of planet hunting were now wide open.
You know, from no planets at all to the point where we're discovering a new planet every month or even sometimes every week. And almost all of the planetary systems that we found were very different from the solar system, weren't even similar in the least bit.
I remember asking at a meeting, you know, how long do you think this will go on? And I think Michelle Mayor said, maybe, you know, another 5 or 10 years, and then the game is over. Fortunately, the game just got a lot more exciting.
After getting my PhD, I became aware of this fellow at NASA Ames Research Center, Bill Barucki.
I would see him at all these meetings. They were very small meetings back in the day. And like he'd literally be by himself out having dinner, so we would join him and chat about things, and he was very persistent.
Bill walked around the halls, and whenever the Ames managers saw him coming, they turned and walked the other way.
Bill Barucki wrote a paper in the 1980s that described the transit method. When that planet passes in front of the starlight drops by a tiny, tiny amount. And by measuring the brightness of the star, minute by minute, we can detect planets going in front of the star, and we call that the transit method. And detectors that could measure that precise drop in brightness didn't exist yet.
To be successful, all one needed to do was build a photometer 1,000 times better than anyone ever built one. But I'd worked on the Apollo program, I'd worked on other programs, so that's not really that scary. You just need to get down to brass tacks and find out what's required and build it. There just is no way of finding small planets in orbits like that of the Earth unless you go into space. You must go into space.
He kept getting shot down by the review panels for various reasons, and each time he'd fix the reason and go back a second time, and they basically said it's not going to work. Well, Bill Barucki didn't bother reading that report, or at least did not take it to heart. Kept on his crusade to show that transit detection should work.
He was able to demonstrate in the lab that he could measure the precision required to find Earth-sized planets orbiting sun-like stars.
Some people call it stubbornness, but the point is I knew it would work.
So he proposed and reproposed, and eventually he conceived of a Discovery-class mission that was later called Kepler.
It was 25 years between the date of publication and the date that Kepler actually launched.
1-0 and liftoff of the Delta II rocket with Kepler on a search for planets in some way like our own.
Kepler just delivered so much tremendously new things we never even conceived of. And the things that were on our wish list, Kepler found for us.
This data was being displayed for the first time on the computer monitors. And there was the transit of that Jupiter-sized planet, and the data was like beads on a string.
Kepler has transformed our understanding of exoplanets. What Kepler was designed to do specifically was to go after terrestrial or rocky planets that are in closer orbits to stars. We now know from the Kepler data that planets like the Earth are in fact common in the galaxy, and that's something we fundamentally didn't know before Kepler.
The first exoplanet was already diverse, and Kepler continued to find more and more planets that didn't fit the norm, both in size, in composition, in distance from their stars. So when you think about how many stars there are in our galaxy, there are a few hundred billion, and if each one has one or maybe more, we're looking at a few 100 billion planets.
To accomplish something great, you have to have persistence.
To succeed in exoplanets, we have to be very ambitious and very bold.
Kepler's impact was extreme, certainly more than I'd ever imagined. It's basically opened up an entire new era of astronomy.
Now that we know that the galaxy is teeming with planets, we are ready to go to the next chapter of planetary exploration.
I truly believe that the 2020s are shaping up to be a golden age for observational astrophysics. We have these amazing telescopes like TESS, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. We have WFIRST, which is this Hubble-sized telescope that can see 100 times as much of the sky in each image. We have the James Webb Space Telescope, which is, the largest and most powerful telescope we've ever built. The reason that we can even dream about that and create something like that is because of the success of Spitzer and Hubble and the previous great observatories.
I'm looking forward to space-based missions where they're going to have coronagraph technology and maybe even star shield technology in order to image exoplanets by blocking out the light from stars.
And we have the next generation large 30-meter class telescopes on the ground, which are going to be coming online in the 2020s. But the question that has me most excited about the future of astronomy is to answer the question, are we alone in the universe?
Finding evidence of life on an exoplanet, finding an indication of a living world is within our reach.
What is life? Life is a process to transfer information from one generation to another.
Everybody is interested in the search for planets, the search for places that remind us of home.
We're looking for some hint of our origins, where we came from, and exoplanets may very well provide that context.
There may be more habitable real estate out there beyond our solar system than we once thought.
I think we're naturally curious to find out if there are other conditions in the universe that might be similar to our own. And finding exoplanets around other stars is the first important clue.
The search for planets is a search for life. And even though we didn't really say that out loud, that was always in the back of our minds.
sky was blue and high above. The moon was new and so was love. This eager heart of mine is singing, lover, where can you be? You came at last, love had its day. That day has passed, you've gone away. This aching heart of mine is singing, lover, where can you be? Oh, I remember every little thing you used to do. Oh, I am so lonely. Every road I walk along with you. No wonder I'm lonely. The sky is blue, the night it's cold. The moon is new, but love is old. And while I'm waiting here, this heart of mine is singing, lover, come back to me.
leaves of brown came tumbling down. Remember that September in the rain. The sun went out just like a dying ember. That September in the rain. Through every word of love I heard you whisper. The raindrops seem to play a sweet refrain. Though spring is here, to me it's still September. That September in the rain. Shaboo build you out. Shaboo build you out. Speedy-dee. Speedy-dee. Shaboo ill you out. Shaboo build you out. Speedy-doo-bee. Speedy-doo-bee. Shaboo-be-doo-be-da-ya. Speedy-doo-be-da-ya. Speedy-dee-da-do. Speedy-doo-bee. Shaboo-be-doo-be-da-ya. Speedy-doo-be-da-ya. Spill-doo-boo-wee.
the string around my finger. What a world, what a life, you know I'm in love. I got a song that I'm singing, and I can make the rain go. Anytime I move my finger, lucky me, can't you see that I'm in love? Life is a beautiful thing, as long as I hold the string. I'd be a crazy soul and soul if I should ever let go. Got the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow. Got the string around my finger. Oh, what a world, what a life, you know I'm in love. Got the string around my finger. Oh, what a world, what a life, I'm in love. Yes, I've got a song that I sing, and I can make that rain go. Anytime I move my finger, lucky me, can't you see that I'm in love? Life is a beautiful thing, as long as I hold the string. I'd be a crazy so and so if I should ever let go. Yes, I've got the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow. Got the string around my finger. What a world, what a life, I'm in love, so in love. Yeah, what a world, what a life, you bet your life I'm in love.
The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the Council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request. The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the Council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of a speaker's request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time, in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Please rise for a moment of quiet reflection in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Edwards. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett?
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Here.
Councilmember Patena?
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher?
Here.
Councilmember Finn?
Here.
Councilmember Hunt?
Here.
Councilmember Leone?
Here.
Council
Here.
Liaison Edwards?
Here.
Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of April 18th, 2017. The first item on our agenda this evening is a presentation. This is regarding the Mayor and Council's Young Artists Program. And if you will bear with me, I would like to tell you why we spend time on something called a Young Artists Program. I strongly believe that the city is not complete without a strong sense of the arts. Public art displays, performances, and our access to them is one of the many attributes that gives us our outstanding quality of life in the city of Peoria and draws others to our great city. The purpose of the program is to engage Peoria students interested in the arts and incorporate this art into Peoria public spaces. The entrees were collected by Peoria Unified School District teachers and then elected their top entries for submittal to the city of Peoria. So we do thank PUSD for all of their work in this project. The commissioned art pieces have been on display in Peoria City Hall since March 3rd, and tonight we will be recognizing these students for their outstanding submissions. And I would like to invite Council Youth Liaison Edwards to the floor to recognize the students whose artwork was selected for the Mayor and Council's Young Artists Award. Thank you. It is so nice to see so many of you here tonight, and we had an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit over in the City Hall just a few minutes ago and get some pictures taken, but now we would like to recognize you in groups. And this is Caitlin Edwards, our Council Youth Liaison, and she's going to be doing the honors for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I begin, I just want to say congratulations to all the winners. As I look out in this crowd, I'm looking out into a crowd of young artists, and I'm just so honored to recognize all of you for your amazing work. We're going to be calling the names of the groups based on your school, so when you hear your name, go ahead and come on down to accept your certificate and take a photo. From Apache Elementary, we have Brandon Bogard in 8th grade. Madison Jensen in 1st grade. And Callie Arujo in 4th grade. There you go. Congratulations. From Cheyenne Elementary, we have Alessandra Jimenez in 7th grade. Jesse Quinones in 7th grade. And Niall Huntley in 7th grade. From Coyote Hills Elementary, we have Haley Miller in 7th grade. Miley Miller in 2nd grade. and Julia Gruero in 8th grade. From Frontier Elementary, we have Haven Ray in 8th grade. Lamely Andrews in 7th grade. And Isabella Escobedo in 8th grade. From Ira Murphy Elementary, we have Joanna Gonzalez in 5th grade. Andrew Sains in 5th grade. And Cesar Salcido in 3rd grade. From Lake Pleasant Elementary, we have Mia Turner in 3rd grade. Desiree Martin in 7th grade. And Madeline Briggs in 8th grade. Congratulations, ladies. From Oakwood Elementary, we have Caitlin Carter in 8th grade. Dylan Essel in 2nd grade, excuse me. And Allie Black in 4th grade. From Oasis Elementary, we have Kennedy Baldwin in 6th grade. Victoria Mezzanotte in 8th grade. And Elena Bratton in 8th grade. Congratulations again to all the winners. You guys do such an amazing job.
We will now proceed to the consent agenda. Council, are there any items to be removed from consent? Any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So, second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Please vote. And the consent agenda passes unanimously. All right. I am now going to exercise the prerogative of the chair and make an agenda change. I would like to start with the first item on the reports from City Manager. Police Department deployment update, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Carlett. And of course, the deployment and staffing in our police department is a high priority for the City Council and executive team, as well as the chief and leadership in the police department. As such, Chief Minter and Deputy City Manager Tyne have a brief presentation on the status of recruitment and deployment within the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Chief, if you wouldn't mind waiting just one moment while
Sure.
we make a little bit of a change here in our audience. Thank you all again for participating in our arts contest this year. Thank you.
I think I'm good.
Okay. We can hear you now. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Once again, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you and give you an update on staffing and deployment for the police department. Tonight, we're going to kind of divide this up into three areas. We're going to talk about the current environment, some efforts going forward, and then kind of give you an update on what we're looking at as far as a strategic growth plan for the department. I want to start with a process you just finished a couple of weeks ago, and we just went through the budget process, but just kind of remind you of the police department and public safety part of the budget, which is 54%, which is, of course, the largest part of the budget. And then if you look at the expenditure specifically for the police department, about 80% of that is personnel, and we're looking at almost a $45 million budget there for the police department. When we talk about sworn staffing, if you look at the chart there, you'll see since 2012, even though we were coming through an economic downturn, we were continuing to provide additional staffing for the police department. Now, at the same time, if you look at while we were increasing staffing, we're still seeing some moderate declines in calls for service. Now, we've seen some increases recently in calls for service. Looking at where we are right now, we're trending kind of downward. We're kind of lower than we were at this particular point in time last year for calls for service. Now, of course, there's a big difference between authorizing and hiring for positions that we have vacant and actually getting those people in the door. We're no different from a lot of the other agencies, not just nationally, but internationally, and what we're facing in the area of recruitment of personnel. Just to kind of give you an idea, if some of the recent articles that have come out lately about some of the challenges that the law enforcement profession is facing in the area of recruitment and hiring. As a matter of fact, last week we just had a national conference here, national and international conference here for the International Association of Chiefs of Police. The mid-cities agencies were here, and this was at the topic of everybody's agenda: hiring, specifically recruitment and retention of people in the law enforcement field. And not just nationally, even internationally, people from Canada were saying that they're struggling with trying to find qualified people to hire and bring into the profession. We've been fortunate in the fact that we continue to have a lot of success in filling our positions and really bringing in really good qualified people. If you look there on March the 17th, it says hired, but we actually had 3 officers who graduated from the academy on March the 17th. Those 3 officers hit the streets this week with their training officers. This Friday, we'll have 2 more officers who will graduate from the academy. We'll be at that graduation ceremony. And then on June the 9th, we'll have an additional 4 officers who will graduate from the academy. Now, on April the 10th, we did 5 interviews for lateral entry officers. And then we did 10 interviews this past Monday for lateral entry officers. And then on next Monday, we've got an additional 5 interviews for lateral entry officers. In addition to that, we've got 4 academy slots that we're working towards filling. Those are coming up in June of this year. So we're moving forward with hiring our personnel. One real quick fact, and I kind of alluded to this when we talked about the budget process, just to kind of give you an idea of the interest that we're getting from lateral applicants. We're getting interest from all over the country. We're getting lateral applicants from Alabama, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Wyoming, Colorado, Illinois, New York City, Kentucky, and Florida. So we're very pleased with the level of interest that we're seeing as far as our lateral applicants who are applying for the department. We currently have 13 vacant positions. We are moving forward with identifying people and people that we have in background investigation process right now for all 13 of those positions right now. In addition to that, on the 10th, we had a new hire, a lateral entry officer from Arizona State University. And this past Monday, we had a new hire, a lateral officer from the Phoenix Police Department. So we're happy with the level of interest that we're seeing and the progress that we're making in the area of hiring and bringing on new officers. Some of the enhancements that you'll see for our patrol officers, one of them should look very familiar, or first couple of them look very familiar in the 3 additional sworn positions that were approved in this new budget that was presented to you a couple of weeks ago. In addition to that, in order to increase support for our patrol officers, we also are put in the budget 2 additional police service officer positions, and then overhire funding for 2 positions. Those are 2 retirements that we have planned this year. And then also a telephone report writing unit. Let me explain real quick what that is. We've got 2 contract positions, about 20 hours a week, where sometimes people, even though we try and encourage them to do online reports, they don't want to do an online report. They actually either want an officer dispatched to the scene, or they want to talk to somebody and have somebody actually take the report for them. We realize that sometimes we're fortunate if we have an officer who's on light duty, or we may have to pull an officer off the road, and an officer can get that done. But if we can get a couple of people to do that on a part-time basis, that'll take a lot of the stress and strain off of the officers on a daily basis. And some of the calls they're responding to, where all the people need is just somebody to do a report. So we're very encouraged by that. Some of the other operational improvements, we're moving away from the laptop computers, and we're moving into the new era of technology and going with tablets. We've ordered tablets. They should be here sometime around July of this year. They'll kind of be one-stop shopping. Not only will you be able to do your reports on your tablets, but you'll also be able to use your tablets for electronic ticket writing. You'll also be able to take pictures and record video at the scene using your tablets. That other photo on my right is a picture of somebody who would be doing the telephone report writing unit. Down at the bottom, one of the things that we're real proud of is our great relationship with the PPOA and the information that they're bringing forward regarding suggestions and recommendations for improving efficiency and effectiveness of the police department. They brought a couple of matters to our attention recently. Very, very progressive, innovative things that they brought to our attention to kind of cut down on the amount of time officers are spending doing reports and doing other things out in the field. One of them was we changed our module for how we book people when we arrest them, and the other one was we shortened the form that we're looking at implementing for non-criminal reports. Something where we're not taking somebody to jail, but somebody just needs a report, and it's kind of shortening that process for the officers. The other thing we're looking at is we realize that our people spend a lot of time typing reports. Some people are really, really good at typing, and they can type really fast. Some people kind of use from time to time the hunt and peck method. So one of the things we're looking at is identifying a software program where the officers can actually have their reports transcribed. They can actually read their reports or dictate the information into the phone, and then that information could be transcribed onto a report for them. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as far as operational improvements. Our strategic growth plan, on an annual basis, because we are a CALEA certified agency, we always have an annual staffing assessment report done. But like I said during the budget process, that kind of gives me a snapshot of the here and now. What we need to look at is, as the city continues to grow and continues to expand, we need to look at what, if any, additional resources we need to look at and consider and start planning for in the future to make sure we maintain an adequate service level for our citizens. When we're looking at the strategic growth plan, a couple of things that we want to look at and make sure we take into consideration is we want to have a good workload analysis done. We want to see how busy our folks are and what the needs are for our folks in terms of the workload that's been put on them on a daily basis. We want to look at what our minimum daily staffing needs may be. We want to have an assessment done of our current schedule. We want to look at our deployment strategy, how we're deploying our officers, where we're sending them, how we're sending them out there. And then we want to look at our current staffing levels and really get a good assessment of our current staffing level. Now, of course, when we do this, we realize that there is no report that's kind of one size fits all. It's basically dependent upon the agency, what's going on in the agency, what the needs are in the communities that we serve. With that in mind, looking at the Benchmark Cities report, some of the things that will need to be kept in mind when we do our strategic growth plan and we do like our workload analysis and our scheduling analysis are things like our calls for service per 1,000 residents, which you can see is still pretty low when we actually compare that to several of the other Valley cities. If you look at our violent crime rate, still very low compared to some of the other Valley cities, one of the lowest amongst the Valley cities. You look at our property crime rate, still very low when you compare that to a lot of our other Valley partners. And then we also realize that we are not just a growing city, but we're a pretty big city. We're about 179 square miles, so we cover a lot of area. So that's one of the things that's going to be very important for us is making sure that we maintain a staffing level that's adequate for the amount of area that we have to cover. One of the things that we're real proud of that we've been working on lately is our great partnership with the PPOA and with COPS and discussing and bringing different things to the table that we believe will be very fruitful and very productive in helping us to work through some of the staffing and deployment and recruitment and retention things that we as a department still need to continue to work on. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. And I know that some of the council members do have questions, but in the interest of time and the people in our audience who have asked to speak, I am going to defer back to that agenda item, and then we can come back and talk to you again afterwards. So I am going to now move on to call to the public, and I would like to, since we have a number of people who have requested to speak, I'm just going to go over the rules a little bit here. The purpose of public comment is to allow input on issues. Speakers shall refrain from making personal attacks on city staff, applicants, and council members. Remarks should be directed towards the issues and comments and not repetitive of other comments. So as you come up, as I call your name, I will ask you to come up to the podium over here and state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. And again, I do ask that, that if somebody has already said what your comments are, please just refrain. We can take them from that person. And we will begin with Dr. Thomas Shipley. Dr. Shipley, over here at the podium, and please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, and your timer will be up on this side.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Thomas Shipley. My home address is 10243 West Callejos, Peoria, 85382. My business address is 20470 North Lake Pleasant Road, Peoria, 85382. I want to speak today because as a concerned business owner in Peoria, it has come to my attention about the long wait times or response times that we have in Peoria as compared to other areas of the cities. It was brought to my attention that in some areas of the cities that the response time can be as much as 15 minutes, getting worse typically as we go further north, which is where I live in the city. With 5 kids in Peoria schools, with a business in Peoria, that concerns me. As a dentist, as a orthodontist, I'm not only concerned with a person's aesthetic, but their general overall health of their mouth, diagnosis, and disease prevention. I believe we live in a beautiful city. It's very aesthetic, and that's to the credit of our great city council and our great staff. I also believe we live in a very healthy city. And again, commend the government and the citizens for the great place in which I chose to live. But as a doctor, although I'm concerned with the aesthetics, I'm also concerned about the overall health of the mouth. If someone comes to me and says a tooth hurts on the left side of the mouth, I don't merely say, okay, chew on the other side. Reallocating the placement of food in the mouth because of a sore tooth is not solving the overall problem. Reallocating the position of the officers in the city of Peoria is not solving the problem. It's only moving staffing around. We need to solve the problem. Also, the biggest problems in healthcare that I see are the unnoticed problems that the patient doesn't know about or is unaware of until a problem strikes them. I believe many of our citizens, because of the safe place in which we live, because of the great citizens that we have, may not be aware of the long response times that we have in Peoria compared to other benchmark cities. And again, that will become a problem for them when they are a victim of crime. My daughters, who are just now learning to drive, will hopefully not, but may need a police officer, and that will likely be on the streets of Peoria, or my children at school. If my daughters or my sons are victims of violent crime or rape, it's Peoria that's going to respond to them, and I want them there quickly. I want them there for the citizens that are clients of mine in my business, but also for my family. As citizens of Peoria, we deserve that. You all want that. We all want that in the office. And we need to get at least 30 officers more to help us in that endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Kluwer. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, my name is Joe Kluwer. I live at 30678 North 129th Avenue. I'm with the citizen organization called citizensforpeoria.org. You'll see many of us out there wearing these blue and red ribbons for support of public safety. Let me begin by saying we have a great city. You guys deserve a lot of credit for that as the leadership of this city. So we're not mad at anybody. This is not a protest or anything of that nature. We're here to talk about an issue of serious public concern as it relates to the level of police services in the city of Peoria. I'm going to rattle off some symptoms of that serious concern. One is, of course, the high response rates to emergency calls. The other is the excessive overtime that the officers are asked to work. They're asked to supplement shifts. They're constantly held over on shifts. They're called in early when the shift prior to them gets tied up on issues. That affects their quality of life, work-life balance. The department is currently cannibalizing itself. They have detectives and motors supplementing 2-week rotations out to patrol to support patrol. Of the 18 beats in the city of Peoria, a third of them on a regular basis go uncovered, so people in its neighborhood is not receiving police services. The typical deployment is 12 officers out of the 18 beats. The other thing is vacancies. I count 24 vacancies on the police department roster via the public records that I've received. I think it's great, and I want to commend the chief for making efforts to work on that. I think that we can hire additional people if we set that as a top priority. We need to do that immediately, but quite frankly, we need to fill every full-time employee position plus add officers, because when you have 10 squads and you have a 10-man squad or less, you're not mathematically going to be able to cover the need. So the real core issue has to go to the fact that the police department is suffering a personnel shortage. The police chief, to his credit, is doing a fantastic job with what he has to work with. It's not fair to him to ask him to provide the level of service of a police officer in every beat, every shift, as articulated in the Phoenix Police Chief's annual report. We need to support him. We need to support our police officers so that they can continue to do the great work that they do in a safe environment. And again, we're committed. We're passionate about this issue. We are citizensforpeoria.org. and we intend to be very engaged in the process. And I'm going to save you some time, and thank you for your efforts. We have a great city. That's why I moved here recently. And like I say, we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Excuse me. Please refrain from clapping. The next person is, oh boy, Thai Yan Pham. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
How is your name pronounced?
It's Thuy Ngang Pham, but I go by Nan.
Oh, so much easier. Please state your name and address for the record.
So Ngang Pham, 8143 West Salter Drive. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for listening to me and everyone else here. I'm a little nervous. My family has lived in Arizona for over 20 years, and we lived in Peoria for over 10 years. I went to Sunrise Mountain. So on October 28th, I was at Standing Rock, and I witnessed, oh God, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I witnessed the aftermath of the human rights abuse against the water protectors and the people of Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the 17 million people that live downstream for protecting their water. Oh God, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
So on October 27th, that's when the federal government, the National Guard, and the state troopers came in and raided the camp. They urinated on sacred feathers, on sacred land, and violated treaties. So basically, I'm here to raise more awareness because our new administration has fast-tracked the advancements of the Dakota Access Pipeline without a full environmental impact study and without the free, prior, and informed consent of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. So here I am, and the question I always get is how can we help? So there are 17 banks that fund the Dakota Access Pipeline, and that includes Wells Fargo. I recently discovered that our city is banking with Wells Fargo. And all I ask is that we start the conversation of how we can take our money out of big banks that violate human rights and aids in the genocide of indigenous people and into banks that are for the people and by the people. And I just want to start that conversation with the city of Peoria.
Okay, thank you for your comments. All right. Jason Wraith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jason Wraith. I live at 8664 North 95th Avenue. On May 2nd, you will be hearing an appeal for the QT on 95th Avenue and Olive. 95th Avenue, south of Olive, is a residential street. There's a no through traffic sign at the beginning of it. Cars back out of their driveways directly onto 95th Avenue. The only other way out of the neighborhood is a street that is halfway completed due to the combination of city and county lands. We are a very unique neighborhood. I don't think you will find any other neighborhood in the city of Peoria where a convenience store is on a residential street like ours. We are concerned about the increase in traffic the QT will bring to our neighborhood and the possibility of increased traffic collisions on Olive. And you only have to look towards the QT at 67th Avenue and Thunderbird to see that that could be a possibility. They have a very similar left turn exit onto Thunderbird that is planned for the QT on Olive, and there have been over 20 accidents that can most likely be attributed to that left turn access onto Thunderbird from the QT at 67th Avenue. Our goal would be to have the city work with QT to find a better location for their business, or to work with the residents to ensure that the traffic coming to and from the store does not affect our quality of life in the neighborhoods to the south. And the one thing that I would ask is I'd like to ask each of you to drive through our neighborhood, see the uniqueness of it, and recognize that this is not a correct location for a QT. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right. And Jerry Gannon?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jerry Gannon. I live at 7718 West Common Avenue. I've lived here for almost 25 years now, and as you can see, I'm here representing the citizens for Peoria. We have a real problem in Peoria. The city has grown exponentially, and our department has not grown as far as the Peoria Police Department. We need to increase the amount of people that we hire, and I'm not mad at anybody here. Just like Joe was saying before, I think you all do a great job, but we need to hire more people. The response times that we have in this city are some of the worst response times in the state for Priority 1 calls. And I have to tell you, if you're on the receiving end of that Priority 1 call, it makes a big difference between 5 minutes and 15 minutes. You need to hire more people. You need to set up staffing levels where they need to be, fill all the vacancies, and increase the police. Over the 25 years that I've lived here, back in the olden days when I moved in here, we used to receive things in the water and the bill for the water department to increase police where they would raise our taxes, and we would vote for it right there. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that again. It doesn't matter to me what I have to pay. I want to see more people out here. Those calls for service need to go down. Rearranging manpower from North Zone to South Zone, that's just not going to do it. I've worked in the city of Phoenix. We tried the same thing. It doesn't work. Paying overtime to all your police officers out there does nothing but burn them out and get to the point where somebody's going to make some mistake that's going to cost the city even more. Hire more police. That'll solve the problem. Chief, good job.
Thank you, sir. And that is all the requests I have for public comment. So we will now move back to our regular agenda. Reports from City Manager. So, Mr. Swenson, we kind of stopped abruptly on your first report. Would you like to continue that so the council members can get some of their questions answered?
Chief, Jeff, if you'd like to step back up if the council has any questions from the previous report. And also, while they're coming up, Ms. Pham, your request, I'd be happy to have you speak with my assistant, Don Prince. Don, can you... Okay, Christine will help you back there, so she can take your information, and we'll get back to you on your item.
Whenever you're ready, sir. So, Council, do you want to start with questions? Yes, Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I have several questions actually for you. So I heard one gentleman today say that we are 30 officers short. I heard another gentleman say that we are 24 officers short. And I heard you say that we are 13 officers short. What is the real number?
The real number that I have is we have 13 vacancies. But if there's a discrepancy and they'd like to point out some additional vacancies that they think we have in the department, I'd like to sit down with Mr. Clore and go over those numbers.
Okay.
But our official number is 13 vacancies.
Okay. My second question is, I heard another comment that we have some of the highest response times in the state. I've actually heard differently from you specifically. Can you address that for me and tell me exactly where we are in terms of response times?
Sure. What I can tell you, Mayor and Councilmember Patena, is, of course, we go through and monitor response times on a daily basis. Now, as far as response times on a statewide level, I haven't seen response times for all agencies in the state. I have seen response times for some of the valley cities. Ours were listed as kind of high, but we need to make sure that we're also comparing apples to apples. One of the things that we look at is, are we measuring response times from the time the call is received to the time the officer arrived, or are some agencies measuring response time from the time the call is dispatched to the time the officer arrived? What I can tell you is we constantly look at and monitor those. It continues to be a priority for us and something that we continue to review on a daily basis. And when we see those response times go up, we make whatever adjustments we can to make sure that we are appropriately addressing those response times.
Councilmember, if I may, just one quick item is, Chief, maybe you can speak to kind of the unique geography that we have in our community. As you had seen in the prior slide where it shows the map, we're a little different than what you're going to see in a number of other valley communities where we have a significant portion of our city that is still undeveloped, and that can, of course, affect response times to some of those farther reaches that are not in the urbanized area.
Okay. And my last question, Chief, is we all know that the last several months there's been a lot of positive information going out about the police as well as negative information. And my question is, how can our citizens find out what the true facts are about crime levels and response times in their areas?
Well, Mayor and Councilmember Patten, a great question. One of the things we're real proud of is the amount of time we spend out in the community meeting with members of our community. We attend community meetings, HOA meetings on a regular basis. I know a couple of weeks ago I was up at the Trilogy HOA meeting with Councilmember Bensbacher. I can tell you that I can't recall any community meetings that we've been to lately where anybody has brought up any concerns about response times. But one of the things we encourage people to do is go to crimereports.com and make sure that you can sign up for that and you can monitor any crime activity going on in your neighborhood. Or if you have any specific questions about response times in your specific areas, you can contact one of the precinct commanders and we can put you in contact with someone who can provide you with the accurate information.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bensbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, specifically with regards to crime rates and call activity in Vistancia, can you tell me how that compares to the rest of the city?
Well, I can tell you Vistancia has a very low crime rate. As far as calls for service to the Vistancia Trilogy area, they account for about 3% of our total calls for service for the entire city up in the Vistancia Trilogy area.
I want to comment, if I may, too, that that community meeting that we were at, which was one of several meetings in the last couple of weeks that I have attended, that was the Trilogy's HOA, their annual meeting. And we were at the multipurpose room in Lake Pleasant Elementary School, which was full. There was a lot of residents there, and Trilogy they're very engaged citizens. And Commander Walls actually did the presentation. I spoke, and then Commander Walls spoke that day and opened it up to questions, because we try to do that. I try to do that whenever I can, and I'm in front of constituents and ask them, about the service and what PD could do for them, and if they had any questions. And in all of that presentation and that dialogue, and then we stayed afterwards, response times did not come up. And I realize that we're a growing city, and we are having to, that's a very delicate dance to manage as we grow and adequately add to staff to be able to provide service. Have you heard complaints? I back up for just a second. I was also on another outing with some residents from Vistancia. There were about 80 folks there. And I moved around and talked to them, and I didn't hear concerns about their safety. Are you hearing it, or are these comments today new with regards to the Vistancia area? And I'm talking about that because that's my district, obviously.
I personally have not been approached by anybody who's had any concerns that they've expressed to me regarding response times. Commander Bruce Walls is also here, and I believe he'll probably say the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, if there are people out there that have that concern, we still want to have that conversation with them and make sure it's adequately addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Finn?
Thank you. A number of questions I just want to kind of go through. One that stuck out to me was it appears that we had quite a bit of interest coming in laterally that I think you mentioned. But if memory serves, we only hired 2 out of 15 that were coming in applying laterally. Is my math right on that? I think we had 10 that we interviewed on April 17th, and there were additional 5 that were done previous to that.
Yeah, let me go back to that slide because it may help you. It may help me
Help me
explain
understand my own mind a little bit better. Good luck with that.
Yes, as far as the lateral interviews themselves, we interviewed 5 on April the 10th. We interviewed another 10 yesterday, and we've got 5 scheduled for interviews on next Monday. Out of the 15 that we've interviewed so far, we've got a solid 7 of those who are moving forward right now in the hiring process. In addition to that, we've got the 4 academy slots that are set. 3 of those individuals are already in background investigation. The other one should be in background investigation probably either tomorrow or before the end of the week. In addition to that, we've got 2 additional laterals who are not coming in from out of state. They're going through a state certification program with Glendale Community College. We're also looking at those 2. So that gives us the 13 vacancies that we have right now.
Outstanding. So I read that. I think I read that incorrectly. There's 7 of those 15 that are moving forward.
Correct.
Oh, awesome. Great. Okay, thank you. I also heard that of 18 beats, a third, I think I got this right, a third go not filled. Is that a new number for you? Is that just asked the question, is that an accurate number?
That's an accurate number in terms of how many beats we have. The fact that on every shift, every beat is not filled, because when you look at some of the beats, I mean, one of the beats that we're looking at is the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, the need for us to have an officer up there on a regular basis. The other thing that I want to make sure that doesn't get lost in this staffing conversation, Mayor and Councilmember Finn, is there are days where we realize that through our staffing assessment that there are heavier days for calls for service than other days.
Sure.
And those are days that we staff what we call double shifts. And we call them double squads. So those are double squad days where we have 2 squads in on those particular days because we know those are heavy, high-volume call days. Monday for the South Precinct is a double squad day. Saturday on swing shift for the South Precinct is a double squad day. Friday on graveyards for the South Precinct is a double squad day, and I'll get to numbers in just a second. And then for the North Precinct, you have Friday afternoon is a double squad day. Thursday during the day is a double squad day for the North Precinct, and Saturday at night is a double squad day for the North Precinct. Depending on how many people we have in training or people we have off, on a double squad day, you could have anywhere from 19 to almost 25 officers working on a shift on double squad days. That has not been kind of the norm lately with the vacancies that we have, but the majority of our double squad days, we've got anywhere between 14 and maybe 18 officers who are working on double squad days, if they're not off, if we don't have officers in training. On those days, that allows us to be a little more flexible in filling beats.
Okay. So we're really, if I understand it correctly, we're basing this more on data that we've gathered on when we need the officers and where we need the officers.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I had one more. I think that does it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Leone?
Yes, Chief. I know I've asked this question many times. How many sworn officers do we have today?
Mayor and Councilmember Leone, we have an authorized strength of 196 officers. Right now we have 13 vacancies that we're moving forward in filling.
And how many total do you want to have by the end of this year?
By the end of this year, with the 3 additional positions that are in the budget, that would put us at 199 sworn positions that were authorized.
And how about next year?
We haven't discussed next year yet. Next year will probably be part of our strategic growth plan that we'll be looking at as far as a staffing and deployment study that we're going to be looking at having done. Our hope right now, and with the assistance of the city manager and with mayor and council, is that we may be able to move on that sooner than the waiting until the actual budget cycle starts so that we can get that process going.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. All I want to start with, I'm not turned on here. We had an unfortunate situation across Grand Avenue about a week ago, a murder, frankly. And I want to say the response time from officers in getting there was immediate. But more than that, the fact that the culprit was apprehended within 24 hours because of police work on the scene, gathering accurate data there, interviewing witnesses, and the incredible work of the detectives in tracking this person down. And that involved a history with this young man that the officers knew. They knew that. They had done their homework, so to speak. So they weren't really going into this cold because they had a lot more facts than just what they gathered there. I think 24 hours to catch a murderer is really remarkable, and the officers and detectives, just big kudos from me. I just can't say thank you enough. I echo what I've heard from my other council members. I have not had one constituent call me with any safety concerns. I get barking dogs and dust and tumbleweeds and the usual things like that. I truly have not had one person express concern about safety. And I think a lot of it is because our officers are apparent, they're out there, they're visible, and that's part of the city's neighborhood policing plan. And also, just really kudos to your staff for being so available for community meetings where they meet the people, shake hands, talk to them, and listen to them. It's amazing. It's an amazing department, and I'm very, very proud, and I feel very safe in my home and anywhere else I go in Peoria. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, you talked about your deployment measures. Can you kind of relate, how does that, have you had the buy-in of the police association? Have you talked to them and talked about the deployment measures that the city is undertaking? Can you kind of explain, are they okay with this? Do they have questions? Do they have concerns? And, just elaborate a little bit.
Well, I can tell you that we've got a really good working relationship. Current leadership of the PPOA, we talk on a regular basis about staffing and deployment. Of course, they also have concerns about the number of vacancies that we have right now and the impact that it may be having on some of the officers there in terms of additional overtime. But what I can tell you is we are continuing to meet on a regular basis and work collaboratively to not only discuss, but to come up with great solutions and recommendations. The two things that I talked about earlier, the suggestion and recommendation about changing the booking modular and going to a shorter form for non-criminal reports, those are suggestions and recommendations that came from the PPOA and the PPOA membership. And those are things we greatly appreciate them bringing forward. Anything that they can do and bring forward to us to help relieve some of the pressure and the strain on the officers in doing their day-to-day job out there, we greatly appreciate. And we're really, really happy with the current partnership we have with the leadership of the PPOA.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Finn.
Thank you. I found my other follow-up question. I apologize. I didn't get it earlier. You mentioned on the response times that there are some differences, and you have to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. You mentioned whether or not we measure on call time or dispatch time. So my follow-up question on that was how is Peoria measuring their response time? Is it at the call or is it when it's dispatched?
We measure it both ways.
Okay.
We look at the total call time. We measure it from the time the call is received to the time the officer arrives on scene. The other thing we always take a look at is dispatch to arrival time.
Okay.
Because we realize that sometimes there's some things that we can't control during that initial call period. People may not know where they are. They can't give you the right address.
Sure.
Somebody may type something in wrong. But we want to know, once that call is dispatched, how long is it taking the officer to actually arrive on scene and what that actual time is. But we have to take into consideration the total call for the time. Because when people pick up the phone, the clock starts running for them.
Right.
And they want to know how long it's going to take you to get there. We want to know how long it's going to take you to get there too, but we also want to make sure that we're tracking how long it's taking our officers to get there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just had one question, Chief, and I know that we are starting to get a consultant online and do a growth plan, and I'm very interested in that study. What are all of the things that you think that study will entail, and what are we going to do with the results from that?
Well, we talked about one of the things we want to look at is we want to do a workload analysis. We want to take a look at a really good, thorough look at how busy our folks are and what exactly that they're doing and how much of a workload is currently put on our folks. We want to look at our minimum daily staffing needs. We want to take a look at how many people do we need on a daily basis, not just, like I said, the annual here and now snapshot, but what are we looking at as the city continues to grow and expand, and if there are any potential service issues that we may need to plan for in the future as the city continues to grow. We want to do an assessment of our schedule. We're looking at our schedule. We believe we have a good, solid schedule, but we also want to have an outside person to see if the current schedule we have really works for the service demand that we have on a daily basis. We want to look at how we're deployed, how we send our officers out and what our deployment strategy is. And then, of course, the last thing is our current staffing level. Is our current staffing level adequate, or are there other things that we need to look at and consider?
Well, I really appreciate you initiating this study and going forward with it, and I just want you to know that even though it's difficult to get completely staffed up right now, and there's a police shortage across the country, I appreciate your work to try to fill all of those vacancies and then look forward to what is going to happen. We are a growth city, but we are also a city that prides itself on our quality of life, and number one in quality of life is public safety. And so we appreciate you moving forward with this study so that we know as we grow what we need to do. And I would like to give you our commitment as mayor and city council of the city of Peoria that whatever you say we need, we will find a way to budget for. So you have our commitment right now. You heard it here today.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple of quick things before I leave, because I know we've got some citizens here that have talked about response times in the area of about 15 minutes. And I want to make sure that we address that before I get up from the table, because one of the things that we've done recently is made a commitment that as best we can to keep an officer up in that Vistancia Trilogy area to be available to respond for calls for service and keep another officer in that area. So when that officer responds, there's another officer in the area to back that officer up. We have seen some significant decreases in response times since that officer has been up there, so we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. We're going to continue to monitor that. The other thing is I really don't want to leave here without really acknowledging the great work the men and women of the Peoria Police Department do on a daily basis. We've been facing anywhere between 14 to 12 to 13 vacancies at a time. These men and women still continue to come in here on a daily basis. They answer every call for service that continues to go out. They continue to keep the crime rate in the city low. We realize that there are times when they're tired, but they continue to come in and work overtime to make sure they're here for their fellow officers. That's the reason why the commitment to get officers here and to get them hired as soon as we can to make sure that we're providing as much support to those officers as possible. But I really want to make sure that the mayor and council really understand that these officers with 13 openings are really, really going above and beyond what we expect of them some days. And I realize that there are days where they just go from call to call to call. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the extra work they're doing to continue to keep this community safe and to make sure they're responding to calls for service in an appropriate time.
Thank you for saying that, and we echo those. We really thank them for their service, especially during this time. Thank you very much for your report. Mr. Swenson?
Thank you, Chief Jeff. Mayor, the next item I have is a report from Chris Hawkes, our Planning and Community Development Director. And it looks like he's going to be joined by Deputy City Manager Susan Toluden and Karen Nybeg of the department.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. And this is really a good chance to show the corollary to the work that happens in our police department. There's a whole segment of social need and neighborhood need that this council, in its wisdom 3 years ago, said, let's look at providing a human services coordinator for the city to help people with those things that haven't elevated to a public safety need, but families need, and individuals in this city didn't have the support. So this program was initiated 3 years ago. We did a 3-year work program. We hired Debbie Pearson as coordinator, and recently you've added another position to help because of the number of demands on this program and just the phenomenal growth and value this has placed in our community. So I wanted to commend Karen and Chris for the great job that they have done, but to thank Manager Swenson and the council for the foresight on this, because it has really been a popular service. And to that end, we're putting a lot more programs out, and we are just initiating and going to approve a needs analysis and the next 3-year work program for this staff. So with that, we're going to tell you some of the things that are going on. I'll turn it over to Chris Hawkes. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm actually, in a minute, going to turn it over to Karen Imig, our Community Assistance Manager, but I do want to echo Susan's comments about the Human Services Initiative. It's been very effective. One of the inputs, or the outputs, I should say, of the initiative is, what we're going to talk to you about tonight, is our community awareness seminars. And as Karen will talk, they are a series of talks that we offer on a variety of topics throughout the city, and they're free to our citizens, so it's really a good benefit. But I also want to not only, I'm proud of the leadership that Karen Imig has offered the division, but I'm also very proud of the work that both Debbie Pearson and Ginger Sanabria, she's our newest Human Services Coordinator, have put forth in putting this program together. It's really become pretty robust in the last couple of years. So with that, I'm going to have Karen talk about the next quarter.
Okay, I have nobody else to pass this to, so all right, thank you, Mayor and Council, and I hope you're having a good evening. And as Chris said, we're just here to talk about the awareness series seminars and really not the entire program. So as Susan mentioned, this program's been in place now, the Human Services function, for 3 years, which has gone very quickly and has accomplished quite a bit. We started the awareness series seminars partway through the first year of operation, and it is meant to provide educational resources and outreach to our residents on topic-sensitive areas that we saw a need for. Things from grandparents raising grandchildren all the way to teen domestic violence issues. So there's a lot of not-for-profit providers in our area that want to tell us what they do. They provide their services to the city pro bono. We don't charge anybody for these programs. All of our programs are at no charge to anybody who comes. And we are holding these at various locations in the city. So we'll have classes at Sunrise Mountain Library, Rio Vista Recreation Center, particularly when we have a class that we see a need might be for somebody to bring their children and have availability for childcare. And Community Services has been very good to work with us on that. And then we also have classes at different buildings here on the City Hall campus as well. So since these classes have started, we have held 28 different topic-sensitive classes, and 597 participants have come through. Some classes are large and some classes are small, and that's normally by design. So we're really here to tell you about the next 3 months, and the next class is tomorrow, so you're not too late. It's Fair Housing Month. April is Fair Housing Month, and HUD does a lot of work in the, particularly on this all year long, but April is when we really celebrate this. And so tomorrow from 5 to 7 p.m. at Rio Vista Recreation Center, we are going to have professionals from the Arizona Fair Housing Center, and they will discuss what is and what is not a fair housing violation and what your rights and remedies are. And I want to address to how to register for our classes, and this will be the same for any class, and that would be through our email address at communityassistance@peoriaaz.gov, or you can call the General Community Assistance line at 623-773-7070. In May at Sunrise Mountain Library from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., we're going to have a class called Pathway to Home Ownership. And this is going to teach people how to take responsible steps towards their home ownership, particularly for affordable housing. And attendees are going to be able to meet with HUD-certified housing counselors at this particular class. And the agency providing this is called the Administration of Resources and Choices, and again, it's the same registration process. And then in June, something that's always very, very popular is called Want to Boost Your Brain Health, and it is provided by Banner Alzheimer's Institute. And so they're going to discuss the different domains of your brain, such as cognition, language, and attention. And then they're also going to provide information about what is normal aging versus what might be something more serious. So it's the same, again, registration process, and we can accommodate just about everybody who wants to attend. The brain health seminar gets pretty popular, so you might want to register early for that. And then we are also working to provide these to you more regularly as a city manager report, perhaps, or through community services video, potentially. But we wanted to make you aware of the upcoming ones, and then we will be back. And just to remind the viewing public that these are free to them to come and attend.
Do you want to mention your directory of assistance? Because I think that's been the most popular
Absolutely.
item.
So a very popular product from the Human Services Coordinators is the Community Resources Guide. And we just recently did a major overhaul of that and a revamp, a new cover. It's available in print, and recently our Human Services Coordinator made a little business card that you can easily hand out instead of taking a big stack of books with you. The book is widely used and by other agencies as well as our agency. So, for example, the Department of Corrections has used it, the Arizona Attorney General's Office, and the City of Surprise is also talking to us about how they can interpret that for their own city use as well. So one thing that's come out of these 3 years is there's a lot of desire in the West Valley to work cooperatively, and so we're working really hard to have all of our coordinators and practitioners work together. So, but that's a very popular product, and anytime you need any of them, your council assistants have access to them, and they're very good about handing them out and using them as a resource as well. So, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Of course, I have some questions.
Yes.
Actually, I have some comments. First of all, I want to thank Carl for helping me get this program started. I'm really happy with what's going on. I remember the resource guide when it started. It was one page, maybe 4 or 5 names. Now it's a complete booklet, hundreds of names in there. It's done in Spanish as well, which I think is really, really great. It was never my intention to make the city of Peoria a social service agency. That's not the role of the city. But as a city of 171,000 people, we have the responsibility as a city to be able to offer people programs and give them answers if they call for help. And I know that we do that. I know the resource guide has really helped so many people. Our police use it, our fire use it when they go out on calls. And I just think what you've done, Chris and Karen, is amazing. And I'm really happy to be able to serve over 500 people in some of the programs. I think is extraordinary. So thank you for your good work and what you do, and just keep on moving forward. And again, thank you, Carl, for your support. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Thanks very much. Appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
The next item I have is a report from Chris Calcaterra on the recently completed spring training season.
Spring training, remember that? Seems like
And not to be outdone, he too will be joined by a number of others.
Thank you, Carl. Mayor, members of council, it's a pleasure that we're here tonight to share the 2017 spring training season with you. It's our 24th birthday, quite frankly, and we have about 75 years of experience sitting in front of you, but we still look 24. So, and I'm happy to announce tonight with us is Aaron Shreenan, the general manager for our partner organization, the Peoria Diamond Club, Mike Highland, and Blake Englert, our sports complex superintendents. And we had a fantastic year, but we're going to start it off with a quick video for all to watch.
Everyone's happy all day long at the sports complex, aren't they? It's a great place to work, huh?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you can tell by the smiling faces, March is everybody's favorite time of year, and our favorite time of year is April, when it's wrapped up and we get to tell you about our successful season. As Chris had mentioned, this was 2017 rang in the 24th spring training season in Peoria, and very similar to the last 2 years. 2017 brought on some great additions and renovations to the stadium. First and foremost, our Peoria Kids Cove, which we debuted this year, included a ball yard, a scaled-down baseball field with planned activity for patrons attending the game, as well as our shipyard, a nautical-themed playground and splash pad for our younger guests to cool down and enjoy a game time with their families. We also, in partnership with the Padres and Mariners, we introduced a 2,100 square foot high-definition video board. It is the largest in spring training. That's both Cactus League and the Florida Grapefruit League, so we're very proud of that. And we also had a state-of-the-art audio system. It's tailored specifically for our ballpark there as well to enhance the fan experience. And a couple season highlights. 2017 was a World Baseball Classic year. It's an international tournament put on by Major League Baseball, hosted every 4 years. This year, Peoria hosted Team Mexico on the Padres side of the facility for 3 days during the month of March, and we played an exhibition against the Mexico team, against the Padres during the season. The sports complex staff, we know that we have some loyal fans that come to Peoria every year, but we want to make sure that we're reaching out to new fans, so we initiated some expanded marketing initiatives through targeted social media campaigns because we don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to go out there and get some new fans in the Valley and surrounding states. This year, although the City of Peoria has always participated in ticket office functions and initiatives, we had a successful transition with the city becoming the primary operator of the ticket office operations in coordination with our partner, the Peoria Diamond Club. Also, you may have noticed if you attended a game, there was some elevated security measures for the ballpark this year. Very late in 2016, Major League Baseball introduced some new initiatives mandating metal detection for all patrons and staff entering the ballpark to help ensure an even safer environment. And we look forward to working with the Major League Baseball to continue those efforts. And right now, I would like to pass it along to Aaron Shreenan, the GM of the Peoria Diamond Club, to talk about their season.
Thank you, Mike. The Peoria Diamond Club started the season with 633 redshirt volunteers, working almost 5,500 shifts for a total of 21,860 volunteer hours and averaging 156 volunteers per game. We also worked in partnership with volunteers groups from Kohl's and Booking.com Associates. Our volunteers range from high school students to retirees, but they all take great pride in being able to make sure that they can give back to the Peoria community. We've received feedback from many volunteers that spring training in Peoria is like nothing else, and we've actually gotten a word of mouth has spread so much that we get many new red shirts every year, just excited to come see what they can be a part of. Prior to this season, we also were able to start a volunteer emeritus program to honor volunteers that have served our organization for 15 or more seasons but are no longer able to commit to the volunteer work. And that was a big success as well. Our 24th annual charity game on opening day drew over 6,300 fans. And through our volunteer efforts, the Diamond Club continues to support local youth charitable organizations through our grant giving program. Our spring grant distribution totaled $23,500, and the recipients are listed here, with an extensive range of causes. Some beneficiaries include West Valley pediatric burn victims who attend camp to build teamwork and self-confidence, low-income students who receive both food packs and school supplies, at-risk children who have lost a sibling or a parent that receive grief counseling, and female trafficking victims being provided safe havens and a path to a successful future. We also have Peoria students supporting the Special Olympics, receiving educational resources, holding safe driving campaigns, and learning bike safety on our local bike trails. In addition to our recent grant distribution, our Emerging Leaders Scholarship distribution will take place in the next several weeks and will give over $10,000 to Peoria Unified students. Through an add-on to online ticket sales, we are also able to raise nearly $500 in donations from spring training patrons to distribute to Four Peaks for Teachers, which is a school supply drive to assist Valley teachers with out-of-pocket expenses. So we are very proud of our giving and thankful for the generosity of our partners, the San Diego Padres, Seattle Mariners, and the City of Peoria. And we are so appreciative of the continued support of the Diamond Club and our mission to serve local youth. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Blake Englert.
I actually passed the mic a little bit too early to Aaron, so I'm going to back up. I apologize. We were able to garner an attendance for the third year row north of 225,000 attendance, and Peoria was the third highest two-team facility in the Cactus League. And Peoria was also the fourth highest overall attendance in the Cactus League in 2017. Overall gross revenues exceeded 2016's mark, setting a record for the third consecutive year and surpassing $8 million in total revenue for the third straight season. Although the attendance mark didn't reach 2016's record year, overall revenues were higher in 2017. Concessions prices did see a modest price increase. Ticket revenues exceeded last year, in part to a dynamic pricing initiative wherein ticket prices could be adjusted if a game was trending popular to maximize revenue on demand. However, the sports complex was able to offer significant ticket and parking discounts to Peoria citizens through our residence program, which Blake Englert will expand on now.
So Mike was able to touch on a few of the different elements in play this year, and the first, of course, was the 2017 season was a World Baseball Classic year. It's an international tournament that involves 16 nations, and this year the United States won it for the first time. This was the fourth edition of the World Baseball Classic, and it is scheduled to occur again in 2021. This year Peoria hosted Team Mexico, as Mike noted. It's also worth noting that while it's clearly good for the sport, the World Baseball Classic does tend to adversely impact the Cactus League in the short term with the early start, the extra early start to the spring schedule, the attention shift from media and fans alike, and the departure of the team's best players for a couple of weeks to participate in the tournament. This season, I didn't know you gave it to me. The season opened with the debut of Peoria Cove also, which consisted of the ball yard, the mini baseball diamonds you see there, and the shipyard, a playground featuring a small splash pad and play structure set within the frame of a seafaring ship. The name and theme of the playground is a nod to the coastal geography of both Seattle and San Diego, as well as Peoria's own Lake Pleasant. The stadium renovations over the past 3 years, in fact, have focused largely on unique or improved amenities to separate Peoria from other venues, not only during spring training, but for year-round use as well. 2 years ago, the retail space footage was expanded, and new outdoor group and event spaces were built. Last year, the Colonnade, a state-of-the-art indoor group and event space, was completed. And this year was Peoria Cove, a permanent kids attraction, and a new and improved scoreboard. The scoreboard that you see here is 35 feet high and 61 feet wide, making it the largest in both the Cactus and Grapefruit Leagues. The LED technology makes it easier for fans to see the board on even the sunniest days and from any angle in the ballpark. Additionally, the board can be divided into multiple sections on video to show a variety of statistics, videos, graphics, images, and yes, the radar gun. The sound system around the stadium was also upgraded, as Mike noted, in both cases with the visual and with the audio. Much of the previous equipment in use dated to the original construction of the sports complex. Shifting gears here quickly, some both new and returning promotions were executed this season. New was the Peoria Residence Rewards Program. With proof of residency, Peoria citizens exclusively could receive up to $25 in savings per game, $5 off each ticket, up to 4 tickets, and a voucher for free parking, normally a $5 expense. for as many games as they wish to attend. Family 4-packs also return this season to more popularity than ever. It is a bargain where a family receives 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas, 4 chips, and 4 cookies, 4 bags of chips, not just 4 chips, for just $44. And the package can even be prorated up for larger families. Marketing efforts were targeted to specific demographics, families, millennials, previous visitors, and business groups. These aim to highlight what Peoria had to offer to each of those audiences. And while seeking to offer something new for everyone, the sports complex continues to prioritize the family-friendly experience with the family discounts, the new playground, the splash pads, the mini baseball fields, and all the Kids' Days activities as well. And as many of you know, we usually waste no time in getting right back to non-baseball events, and this year has been no different, as we've already hosted the Phoenix Bike Fest and Easter events with another 3 more events over the next 3 weekends, with a collectibles and craft fair, a dessert expo, this is a new one for us, and another new one, a charity fundraising food truck event that the Peoria Diamond Club has partnered with us to put on. We sincerely appreciate all of your support, and I believe we do have one video that we wanted to show to illustrate once again Peoria making national news. I'll let it speak for itself.
Uh-oh. We're getting a swarm on the field. Look at everybody's hitting the deck. The bees again? Oh my gosh, I've never seen that. So the bees on the move, apparently. Doesn't get scared. I've never seen this in my entire life. I've never seen that. Bees. Sounds like a nuclear bomb drill. Oh my gosh. They had started to come across from behind home plate.
That clip right there did more for bee safety and bee response than probably any public service video ever did. But once again, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for all your support for the sports complex and for the Peoria citizens. Thank you.
With that, we would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, questions? Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, congratulations to you and your entire team for another successful year. I've seen that field now for 24 years, and every time I go to the first game, I'm amazed at the way that field looks. It's just really perfect. So thank you for that. Also, I probably attended more games this year than I have in the last 10 years. And the thing that I noticed is from the very first moment you turn into the parking lot, you're greeted by a red shirt, and you know they're always very engaging and helpful, and they have a smile on their face all the time, and that goes through when you walk through the gates. And you know I'm an old guy, and old people get crabby, and I've never seen any of those red shirts be crabby. They all have a smile on their face, so whatever they're drinking, let them keep drinking that. They just did a great job. It was a great. The Cove is amazing. The little ball field, the miniature ball field. There's so many kids that play on that every game. The scoreboard was great. It's easy to see. The sound system was great. I just thought it was an amazing year this year. I've probably been to 3/4 of the parks in Arizona to watch a ball game, and you know I'm probably prejudiced, but I still believe that Peoria is the top place, the top stadium in all of the Cactus League. So keep up the good work, and again, nice job.
Councilmember Patena, thank you very much. It's duly noted that it's your support that keeps us in the position that we're in. So we really are grateful for that.
Well, we'll keep doing that.
Oh, Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to all of you on another season, and you're here to tell about it. You survived it, so congratulations. I also want to point out that in all of the presentation, all meaningful information, one thing that I really want to emphasize is the fact that you maintain those special promotions for Peoria residents to take care of our Peoria residents. Spring training has become big business. And, you know, it's drawing in a big way, and yet Peoria manages to carve out those promotions to take care of our residents and make it affordable for them with the family 4-pack and the specials, to let them know that they are a priority to us. So thank you very much for doing that. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo all the council. You guys do a phenomenal job at showcasing this jewel within our city. And I went to a lot of games this year and walked most of the stadium and just listening to what residents, both Peoria and out of state, were saying. And the common theme was how great this area is. And so that's a testament to your never waving hard work at what you guys do day in and day out. So I want to thank you for that. I was at the game where the Bees were there. That was interesting. The one thing you guys didn't, what you didn't showcase is you guys were, even though it wasn't a highlight, but I watched 60 Minutes the week before last, and they actually had a small clip of the Peoria Sports Complex because they were interviewing the Japanese pitcher, and it was part of the interview was actually in the seats, and they had the Peoria Sports Complex logo on it. So we got international exposure as well. So,
and Vice
good
Mayor
job.
Edwards, you're absolutely right. CBS picked that up, and
Yes.
I picked up the Bees on the Sunday morning show because it was kind of got a twofer. I got a call from my parents to let me know that was happening. I do want to echo something that, I mean, we are the face of the sports complex, but it is a village. I mean, the police department, fire department, we had 90-degree weather this year. We had rain. We all came together, and those happy faces are absolutely, the entire team that put it on. So I can't thank everybody enough that, doesn't get the credit, quite frankly, but I appreciate all they do.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now move on to reports from City Council and start with Youth Council Liaison Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to keep it nice and short today. This last Saturday, I attended my favorite event of the year, which is the Easter egg hunt, and it's absolutely my favorite event. I only got to attend briefly this year, but anyone who's ever gone knows that it is the most fun environment to be in, and you can just see all those little kids' eyes light up when it's their turn to go find their Easter eggs, and I just love that event so much. I also want to mention that this next Wednesday, I think it is, on the 26th, there is a general plan update workshop at Sunrise Mountain Library, which is just a great way to give input into shaping the future of Peoria. So I encourage everyone to go and attend if you want to have a voice in your community. So that's all I have for today, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Patana.
Thank you, Mayor. On Sunday, April 9th, I attended a Veterans Heritage Project at ASU West, and what that project is they have high school kids that go out and interview World War II veterans, Korea War veterans, Vietnam War veterans, and then they take those stories and they edit it and they put it in a book. And the interesting thing was they said that a lot of the stories, I actually read some of them while I was there, stories in the book, and they said that a lot of the veterans who have never talked about being at World War II or what they did or what they saw actually open up to these kids, and they tell them stories that even their family never heard them say before. So, it was Masters Week on television, and I really wasn't sure what this was all about, but about 500 people showed up, and it was quite an interesting event, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to attend. They also gave several scholarships to kids who were doing the interviewing, and that was nice as well. On Monday, April 10th, I went to the Peoria Education Foundation 12th Annual Visionary Awards at the Arizona Broadway Theater, and they honored Dr. Denton Santarelli. There was probably, 350 people there. It was a nice event, and I think Dr. Santarelli was very grateful that he was honored. And on Saturday, April 15th, I got to go to the Dolly Sanchez Easter egg hunt, and like Caitlin said, it's just quite amazing. There's, I guess, around 5,000 people there, and the smiles on the kids' faces and all the events for them to do was really quite amazing. Once again, free parking, free admission, free candy. It's what our city does best. It makes these events affordable for all the citizens in Peoria. And I'm really very, very proud that we do that for our citizens. So congratulations, John, to you and your team. You had a ton of people working out there. They were just everywhere. So great job, and thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to again reiterate how important public safety is to our city. I think it's clear this evening that collectively we have a council that absolutely supports our police department. And our citizens, their safety is at the top of the list. And today we heard from some citizens, and I want to thank them for participating and being respectful and in presenting their concerns. I also want to commend the labor union, the PPOA, and the chief and the executive team for the work that they're doing. Because what a lot of people don't see, what I have been able to see, and I'm sure other council members as well, is that in recent months there has been a lot of significant improvement in collaboration and dialogue and working together. And that's what it's going to take for us to continue to manage as we move forward and as we grow our city to adequately staff and identify concerns, is sitting together and talking together and having those conversations. There's no doubt in my mind that we are all in this together and that we all want the same thing for our citizens. So I encourage any conversations and meetings that contribute to solutions anytime. And I just appreciate the dialogue and that we're putting our citizens first. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I just want to congratulate all of the youth participants in the Mayor and Council Young Artist Program. It was just absolutely phenomenal to see the amount of young individuals that came out and showed all of their artistic talents. And to the parents of those students, thank you for encouraging and fostering that flair within them to let them express their feelings. It's very important for the youth to be able to do that. So I want to commend them for doing it and for the parents for encouraging it. On the 12th of this month, I did attend a leadership meeting in Surprise, and it was made up of about 7 West Valley cities, mayors and a city council member, and it was geared towards ways to engage youth in more leadership roles. And so we're going to be working collaboratively with these cities to come up with some ideas on how to get youth more engaged and kind of prep them for resumes, for job interviews, enhancing their skills for communication, because I know that the youth is really into the texting. Well, sometimes you've lost that communication when you're texting. You can't do that face-to-face interaction. And it's really important to understand that when you're interviewing, that that's how you need to present yourself, is that face-to-face interaction. So I'll be working really closely with the leaders in the other cities to foster that relationship and get the Peoria residents, youth especially, engaged in that. The evening of the 12th, I did attend the Fire and Medical Department Citizen Academy over at Station 191, and there was about 20 members. I think it's a 5 or 6 week course, and the night that I was there, they were doing hands-on operation of supply lines, so they got to watch and actually assist unrolling the fire hoses from the truck and turning on the hoses and actually applying the pressure. Councilman Finn, I don't know if you know it, but your mother was there, and she was handling that hose very well. They did a ventilation demonstration where they actually did some fires and did holes in the roof of some makeshift buildings, and just showed how quickly fires can spread and how to contain them. So that was pretty interesting. The evening of the 13th, I attended one of the community redistricting meetings. And it's just so nice to see residents coming out and sharing their insights. We had 5 maps that are up for consideration, and the input that the residents had was nice to see. And so hopefully We'll get a lot more comments. I know the deadline is fastly approaching. I believe it's Friday of this week to get your deadline, to get your suggestions in. If you haven't done so, please go out on the city website and put in your suggestion, and we'll take those into consideration at the final meeting. And then finally, I did attend the Dolly Sanchez Easter egg hunt. This is the 41st annual, by the way, that this family has been doing this endeavor. It started off in their front yard and has grown to the point where it's over 5,000 students or kids come out to this event. Like Councilman Patena said, there wasn't a kid that didn't have a smile on his face. And what Mr. Patena failed to mention, he was one of those kids because he got a little bit of candy as well. So again, thank you staff for helping put that on, and it's an amazing event, and I look forward to going to that every year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Finn.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. First of all, Nan, thank you for coming down tonight and sharing your thoughts, and clearly that was a bit emotional for you, but I think we all appreciate the fact that you came down here and shared that with us, so thank you very much. And you're one of the rare people that actually stick through the entire meeting, so thank you for that, too. I'm not going to go and reiterate the incredible job that Bridget and the mayor have already done about addressing public safety and our support for public safety, but I just wanted to personally say to the chief, you absolutely have my support for whatever you need, and I know it's already been said, and you guys did, as usual, a remarkable job of conveying that, so I'm not going to reiterate it, but you have our undying support. I actually did have a incident over the weekend where I did have to call the police department in regards to someone's safety. I felt like it was not my mother. No. No, it was I felt that someone's safety was in danger, and I called the police department, and I have to say they did an absolutely amazing job. The response time was very quick. Dispatcher kept me on the line, made sure that I was answering all the questions that they needed, and I was staying at a safe distance, and she stayed on the line with me the entire, I thought they did a phenomenal, amazing job. So, as usual, they're awesome. So, my undying support. Also attended the Peoria Education Awards dinner. It was fabulous. Shredathon at Centennial over the weekend, which I appreciated everybody coming out. I think they had one of their best days out there that they've had in years. It's also at the Relay for Life at Centennial, which was very nice. I don't know if you know this or not, but the American Cancer Society touched 349 lives in Peoria, whether it just be giving them information or helping them with transportation, whatever it may be. That was a really nice event to be at. And I want to thank Officer Hernandez and Officer Hale. There are resource officers at Centennial High School and Liberty High School, and they actually went into the dunk tank and I guess sold their dignity for $1 a piece and let people put them in the dunk tank. So it was a great event. I appreciated them coming out and the PPOA charities for supporting that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Education Visionary Awards also, and one of the things that I'm proudest of that I was able to witness that night, and they do this every year, is the PEEF, which is Peoria Educational Enrichment Foundation, gives scholarships to needy students to go on to college, and there were 10. I just love when they put it up on the big screen and you see these kids and tells a little bit. It interviews the kids actually, and they tell what their goals are, what their aims are, where they're going to school, and so on. I love that part. So thank you to PEEF. They work all year to do this. And their main goal, too, is that they give grants to teachers within their classrooms to support a project or to buy equipment or whatever a teacher might need. I visited last week with Mr. Snyder, who's principal at Cotton Bowl, and we are going to help them with a little community garden right there on their campus. And they've been trying to get that together, and we're going to work with them to do that. The arts. Thank you so much, Mayor, for being an advocate for the arts and for this council for understanding how incredibly important it is and how it affects our lives and the kids. And I know schools are doing a pretty good job, the best job they can, to keep that element in the schools with money being so tight, and some schools are actually not able to have an art teacher and so on. But I'd like to see the term STEM changed to STEAM, which is science, help me out here, science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. Because when you leave out the arts, you're working with only a partial brain. You need the arts to stimulate the imagination and to really for all of the other elements. And there are huge companies now that are hiring an artist, top-level positions, just to be there to talk to the engineers and to have them understand better the artistic approach to what might just seem like mathematical approaches. So the arts are also so important for healing, for our first responders, for our veterans, and just for general brain function. So I'm really proud of this city for recognizing that and for giving the art teachers some recognition too, because those kids didn't do that on their own. They had great teachers. Attended the Chamber of Commerce lunch this week, and I can just say that any of you that are in business, any level of business, whether you own your own or you work for someone else, you really need to join the Chamber of Commerce. They offer so many classes and other opportunities, their website, to get your brand out there. So think about investing a little bit in that. And with that, I too will once again thank our first responders. Police we're focused on tonight, but also fire. We know that they're integral and that they have amazing response times also. So good night.
Thank you. Councilmember Leone.
Yes, yes, thank you. I went to 3 redistricting meetings, and I'm really disappointed. And the 3 I went to, only one person showed up in each one, which only makes 3 people out of 3 meetings. And you know, they asked me who's going to be their next council person. I says, I don't know. Come down and look at the map and make one up. But I was really disappointed when you don't see people coming down and try to get involved, which they should. Also on the April 8th, we at Scotland Yard Park, we had an event. It was a great event. I think it's getting bigger every year. And you know, let me tell you something. If you haven't put one of these on, I want to congratulate my assistant, Karen, in the blue over there. She did just a great job. And I wasn't worried. You know why? She was doing all the worrying for me. But it was just great. She did a great job. And she also had a great trainer, Anthony, back there, who is now, the mayor stole him away from me. But she got a good pick. And I also got a good pick. And I want to thank you again. But she just did a great job. And we had movies, we had hot dogs and popcorn, and you name it, we had it. So we're going to have one next year. We got an email from a lady that wants to know why we can't have it twice a year. Well, I guess she doesn't know how much work there is into it, putting it on. But just want to thank the fire department who came down and all the volunteers, especially George, the Youth Advisory Board. They were there helping out, but they all did a great job. On Saturday, it was the Easter egg hunt, and again, that place, I think, had more than last year because they got new equipment, and it was just great. The kids having a great time, the parents having a great time, and I know my great-grandkids were there, and they had so much candy. I told them, let's stand outside and sell them, you know, and they wanted to. But anyway, I just want to thank the staff that did a great job. And again, it takes a lot of work, it takes hard work, and all you do is worry about it to make sure that you're going to get at least 5 people at this event. But when you get over a couple of thousand, 2,000 or 3,000, that's even better, and it's great. I'd just like to mention on May the 7th at the Church of Christ parking lot, we're going to have a shred event. We have one for the last 3 years. Every year we have it in a different area. And this is on 10935 West Olive. So if you have a lot of stuff left over, come on down and get it shredded. And again, Karen did a great job setting that up. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.
Thank you. You okay? Okay.
I can talk.
All right. We have a lot of events going on in the city of Peoria. We are just moving forward. We are Zooming. And I am just really proud of all of our staff and all of the things that we are able to accomplish in the course of not only a day but a week. It's pretty amazing in the city of Peoria. And so thanks to all of our staff and thanks to all of our council members who are moving forward in a really positive way. And with that, we are adjourned.